It's no secret that Lily Phillips is arguably one of the most controversial people on the entire internet right now, alongside the likes of Bonnie Blue, and we've also got Katie Robertson rearing her ugly head once again. You know, not that I'm saying that she's ugly, that actually sounded far harsher than, it was just a phrase of term. I would never call someone ugly, but, you know, she's basically being a degenerate online once again. But Lily Phillips has obviously been given a BBC Newsnight slot. I've already covered a little bit of the controversy and arguably the worst part of this interview in a video about a week ago, right, where she talks about she started watching pornographic imagery when she was just 11 years old, which and I spoke about the damage that can have and the red flags that raised there as from my perspective as a teacher, right? But we're going to take a look at the entire interview, because obviously that's not the only thing that she spoke about. And the entire interview, the fact that she actually got this level of airtime is kind of crazy to me. So we're going to take a little look at it and dive into all of it.
A little bit of background to you. You've said you had a picture-perfect childhood, you've got amazing parents, you've had a very happy upbringing.
Yeah. So my parents are both together. I have one older brother, and we just had the perfect upbringing in like a little village. No kind of past trauma or anything like that. My parents raised us perfectly. Just honestly, it was perfect.
So that's obviously just to shoot down any of the rumours. Now, many people say that she was potentially abused by her father, which could have led to this kind of need for this level of sexual drive, right? You know, and that is something that they've constantly been lodged against Lily Phillips, Bonnie Blue, Katie Robertson, all the rest of it, right? And she's basically there now shutting that down, basically being like, nope, picture perfect. It was perfect. Perfect.
You say your parents are really supportive of what you do, and people just don't believe you when you say that.
Yeah, so it's tricky really, because they were super supportive when I went into OnlyFans. They understand that it makes me really happy. You know, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm safe. So they thought, kind of, why not? It was only till I took things to the next level and started doing more porn and these kind of events that's when they don't quite support me doing these events, but they support me and they'll always love me and have my back. That's kind of how I describe it.
And when you say they don't...
That's a really interesting way to describe it, because it's either they do or they don't, in my opinion, right? It's either they absolutely support you wholeheartedly, regardless of what you do, or they don't. To me, it sounds like they don't, not gonna lie.
What you're doing with these events, what events are you talking about?
So I do big events where the members of public can come to and join in. So I have quite a lot of gentlemen or women. And yeah, these events obviously for all ages above 18, for anyone to kind of show up.
And can you explain why they don't support that?
I think they just don't find it necessary. It's not something they would have chosen for me to do. I don't think any parent wakes up and goes, oh, you know, I want my kid to be a star when they're older. But they understand that it makes me happy. So they, you know, and also they understand that I am an adult and a woman and I can choose to do what I want.
Let's not forget, she's making literally bucket loads of cash off of this as well. I'm sure that probably plays a part into it. Like, you know, it's no secret like that she's probably making millions of pounds a year easily off the back of these stunts, right? And it's these stunts that also blow her to popularity through rage bait. It's all rage bait tactics, and rage bait is something that is really easy to do these days, right? And it's the traditional way of building, you know, a character online, for example, would be to, you know, grind and make people happy. All right, and then people follow you for your personality, but that takes a very long time to do. If you want that instant gratification, right, the easiest emotion to inflict on someone is anger and rage. And that's why these people do it, because these stunts get people talking, right? If she went, oh, I'm going to be doing something with my husband, for example, no one would bat an eye, because that's pretty normal stuff. The second she was like, oh, I'm going to be sleeping with 100 guys in 24 hours, everyone was like, what? And then tweeting about it, talking about it, YouTube videos about it, this is happening, right? And then she comes on podcasts and interviews like this and says the most outlandish of things, right? Some of it may not necessarily be true, but then it gets people talking again, and it gets the, you know, the rumour mill running, and, you know, I don't help with it, I know that, but people just really enjoy seeing what she says, and the crazy things that come out of her mouth, and for some reason people like to hear what I've got to say about it, which still baffles me to this day.
Generation, Gen Z, has grown up with it being easily available on smartphones. How do you think that has influenced you?
Honestly, I probably watched it first when I was maybe 11.
So I've covered this already in like quite a lot of detail. I probably won't touch on it again. If you want to see my thoughts and opinions on it, go back to that video, because otherwise this is going to be the longest video of life.
11. And so I've always known about it. I've always knew it was a thing. And I always thought it was very normal to watch. And I personally don't think it's a bad thing in moderation. I just think it's when younger adults have a lot of access to it, that's when it does become a problem.
But if you started watching it at 11,
Yeah.
I mean, that is so young.
Yeah.
Can you describe how it has influenced you and your brain and your outlook on?
You know what? It actually made me really confident and learn a lot of things. I mean, that's mostly how I learned through. And I do think it has a positive effect on me, just in terms of like understanding things a little bit more.
Right. But as we know, what we see in online can be extreme. Is not normal.
It depends what type of you're watching. That's what I would say.
Okay. When you look back and reflect on the fact that you had access to this and were looking at it from the age of 11, and not just you, any Gen Z who's got a smartphone,
Yeah.
does that suggest to you that maybe your generation has been let down by politicians or the tech companies or even parents?
I think it's hard because this is a part of life, and I don't.
But not when you're 11.
But
She's got her on the rails there. She's literally got her on the ropes. Like, not at 11. That's exactly what it is, right? When you're 11, you're running around talking about, I don't know, cars and shit. I don't know what kids talk about. Minecraft. I don't know. Not like that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And like, obviously, that kind of stuff as well, that kind of content and imagery being like fed to you from such a young age. Obviously, she says in moderation, we don't know what that actually means. She could have watched it once a day, she could have watched it once a week, she could have watched it once a month. We don't know. But still, that kind of like being fed to you from such a young, you know, moldable age can really form who you become. And we've seen it with Lily Phillips here, right? Yes, she says that she's very confident. Fantastic. But some people can go the opposite way, right? She's saying that this is a positive thing for her. But some people could see the aggression from that kind of content, take that into the real world, think that that's acceptable because it's what they've grown up seeing. It's like the age-old thing with parents not wanting their kids to play Grand Theft Auto because there's so much violence. And if they get desensitized to that level of violence, then they don't see a problem with that level of violence, right? It's the same with this. If they see that level of aggression in that kind of content and they take it into the real world, they realize that actually, you know, there may not be that consent. You don't see the consent sometimes. You know, there's like, people literally make videos about how it's like sometimes not consensual, right? Which is really messed up, which can feed into the real world and then cause real world problems. And then people might be like, well, I didn't know. Like, this is what I've grown up with. Do we then blame them, or do we blame society, or do we blame like the industry? Like, who do we blame then, you know? Begs the question, but I feel like advocating for that kind of thing from such a young age is just not a good look.
I think you should be learning from it from that age. I do believe that, because that's when you start to think about things like that.
Not from it. If you're going to learn about that kind of thing, then you should be learning from professionals, not actors, in my opinion, you know? Like, schools have education programs for this kind of thing to promote safety, right? And how all of that stuff works. Right, and how to do it consensually, and how to do it properly, and how to do it safely, so that there's no issues. And that's how people should be learning, not through, like, and through regulated, government regulated programs, right, on like, you know, a national curriculum. Not through the way that Lily Phillips did, because I can guarantee she probably sat in those education classes when they were talking about it, and she probably was just like, wow, this is just not right, because, you know, I've seen this kind of thing before, and they're just talking crap. You know, it's not right.
But learning...
Maybe not learning from... But I do think understanding it more from that age would be helpful.
Is there a direct link between you watching as you grew up and the decisions you've made to do what you do now?
I think maybe. I mean, I don't know a life without, so maybe.
Billie Eilish is the same age as you. She says she started watching at 11. You've just told us the same age. She says it destroyed her brain. Could it have destroyed yours?
I think it really depends on how frequent you're watching it. I see people nowadays who watch too much too soon and they become very desensitized to it, and that means then they have to watch more and more extreme stuff. I personally wasn't like that. I didn't watch it often enough at all. So I don't think it's destroyed me personally, but I do believe it's destroyed people my age, 100%.
This is a really conflicting interview. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's talking about, like, almost a bit of advocacy for it, but then talking about the damages of it. And it's like flip-flopping between, yes, it's good, no, it's bad, yes, it's good, no, it's bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, I find this bizarre. It's like she had to get the rage bait in there, right? But then didn't back her own rage bait. Does that make sense?
Can I ask, do you see yourself as a feminist?
I do, yes, yeah.
In what way?
Well, obviously, a feminist means you want equality between men and women. And that is honestly what I'm striving for. I mean, it shows me just being in this industry how we don't have that yet. And that is something I'd love to get to.
A lot of feminists, not all, but some are anti. They argue that pornography is the antithesis of feminism. Let me give you a couple of quotes. It is part of the marketing of prostitution. Germaine Greer said that. Gloria Steinem said, it has nothing to do with love, with erotica. It is violence. Are they wrong? And if so, why?
I think what people don't realise is there's so much different kinds of... There is a mate where it's with average guys. It's very normal, you know. I set my phone up in the corner of the room and proceed to have a guy, and it's as if the camera isn't there. And I would like to say that that is relatable, and, you know, that's not something that would damage your brain, because that is the kind of that two people would have. Whereas obviously there's the more like rough kind. It really depends. And I think feminists, when they're talking about, they tend to just talk about this really degrading type of...
You are famous for having with 101 men in a day. It was documented in a YouTube film which has had 10 million views. And we, for those who haven't seen it, we literally see a queue of men, complete strangers, waiting to go into a bedroom to have with you for an allotted 5 minutes. We don't see their faces because they don't want to be on camera, and when we hear the voice of one or two, their voices have been disguised because they don't want to be identified.
Yeah.
You've been asked many times why you did it. You say it's because you enjoy it, and you've explained today that why you do what you do. What do you think of those men who turned up that day?
I think of them as equal guys like me who are also enjoy and honestly just wanted to have a good time.
They're obviously sons, brothers, boyfriends. Like, is it okay for them to turn up that day?
I would say as long as they're not cheating on their partner, then yeah.
And
I mean, okay.
What do you...
Enough at all. So I don't think it's destroyed me personally, but I do believe there's so much different kinds of porn. There
of men, complete strangers,
who are also enjoy sex. Lovely, honestly, just very, very regular guys. We had lawyers, we had policemen, we had, people flying from Sweden, Eurostar from France, a couple from America. Like, they were just bang average guys.
And if your older brother
I guarantee if you asked her to name any of them right now, she wouldn't be able to. It was just another day in the job for her. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like, she promotes this whole idea of normalising it, right? And this kind of content being quote-unquote normal and safe to watch. But the idea of normal kind of 9 times out of 10, you know, like, kind of intimacy is, you know, like, there being an emotional connection as well, right? Whereas that's obviously not promoted within this because it's just a job. It's a gig. It's something that you do to get paid. Right? So there's not that level of connection, which is what people would come to expect, which is, again, part of the problem. You know, people will watch this kind of content and not think that they need that emotional connection, or might not have that emotional connection with someone. You know, like, even if they've been with them for a long time, they might just see it as a necessity, not like an intimate moment, if that makes sense. So again, you're kind of desensitizing that kind of, like, moment.
Brother or your dad turned up to be one of those 101 men to have with someone like you, what would you think of that?
If they're single, you know, it's their own free will to have sex with who they like, and all power to them.
And why do you think they all wanted to be anonymous?
I believe it's because a lot of them had jobs and family that they wouldn't want to find out that they do this, and I think that's totally fair.
Do you respect those men?
I do. I see them as regular men wanting to have a good time. I don't think too much deeply into who they are.
Do you think they respected you?
I think a lot of them did. Not necessarily all of them, but yeah.
And how...
I think she's delusional in that sense. I don't think she believes that. I think that was a diplomatic answer to try and justify a potential mean for an end, right? But I don't think that she was respected. I think she was an object in that challenge. Like, genuinely. It may not be in the case for everyone. Some people may have, but, like, no one was going in there with the expectation of coming out with Lily Phillips being the girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? Like, so in that sense, she's not there as a person. She's there as an object, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you guys think.
Did you know that the ones who didn't necessarily respect you didn't?
I think some of them disrespected my choice to have a time limit on our sex. And that was when I thought, you know, you're not respecting this, that this is, for me, these are the rules, you know, we have sex for this amount of time, we film it, and those are the kind of rules. And that's when I thought, you know, maybe a couple of them are disrespecting me.
Most of the reaction to what you did that day has been revulsion and also a lot of sympathy towards you. Let me read you some of the comments underneath the YouTube film. This is the best anti-porn film I've ever seen. This is self-harm, and I've never felt more protective over a stranger in my life. What did you make of the reaction to it?
Obviously, I really appreciate everyone's sympathy. I just wish we could have put that energy into someone who needed it. You know, I really don't need the sympathy or the heartache or people being worried about me just because this is something I chose to do and this is my job, and it really is my choice, and I'm not being abused or made to do this or forced into it or anything like that.
I believe that. I believe that she genuinely feels that way. Like, she doesn't want sympathy, she doesn't need sympathy, she just feels like because this is the career path that she's chosen, you know, and I've got to say, respect to that.
A clip from that film of you crying after finishing having sex with all those men has been viewed millions of times on different platforms.
Great.
Why'd you say great?
Just because I'm an ugly crier.
Oh, God.
Of course that part goes viral.
I've got the clip here. I'm going to ask you to watch it and then I'll ask you about it.
It's kind of like being a in a sense of, like, it's just a different
feeling. I don't know how to explain it, like...
It's not like just having sex with someone.
Yeah. Just one in, one out, like it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might.
Definitely. Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Just take
Yeah,
it
1
back.
minute.
Yeah, take it.
And I think this is why the sympathy came in, right? Is because of the reaction afterwards. It was almost like a "what the fuck have I done" moment. Well, that's how it came across anyway. And the reality of what she'd just done, it kind of sunk in. I don't know. It was a weird mixed bag of emotions there.
How does it make you feel watching it back?
You know, I just hate the sound of my own voice.
But it's really upsetting. You were really upset.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. It wasn't exactly what I planned or thought it to be, and I think I really prepared for it. And I just think there's stuff I would have done so much differently next time. It took so much longer than I thought. I was having sex for 14 hours straight. It was just exhausting and not what I thought it was going to be in my head.
What did you think it was going to be like in your head then?
You know what? I'd done 37 guys like a month before or a couple of weeks before, and that was just bliss. Like, I just had so much fun. But the difference is they all went together. We had a group of 23 guys and I did them all together. And that was just like, the energy was so much better. The guys were really respectful of each other. Like, the energy was just so much different. I think it was just the guys and how they spoke to me and things like that. And I just thought it was going to be a lot easier.
But I'm just going to pause for a moment because you just say this so normally. Like, this is your world, but you just said, you know, a month earlier I did 37 guys and we had so much fun and it was bliss. Like, wow, God, like, is that normal?
It's weird because...
It's not normal.
No, it really is normal in my world.
Hand on heart, look me in the eye. Can you tell me that day and what happened that day and what you did that day and what those men did that day was genuinely empowering for you?
I think that day was slightly different. My other events, I felt extremely empowered in. My needs were so fulfilled. That day, not so much.
So it kind of goes against the whole point, and I would be intrigued to see, like, I mean, I gotta give, like, an ounce of respect to Lily Phillips for being as open as she is in this interview. I feel like if it was Bonnie Blue sat in that seat answering those questions, it would be very, very different because she's just a very differently wired person. She is so ingrained within that character that there's just not an ounce of soul behind the eyes. Whereas Lily Phillips has got a little bit of something, you know? She has, like, she's not clinging on to those rage bait moments. She's not saying, well, I'll do it again with all the husbands and all the boyfriends and all the, you know, dads and all the rest of it. Like, that's the kind of shit that she'd come out with. Whereas Lily Phillips, I feel like she's actually being a bit more of an open book, which I've got to give respect to.
Once you make the decision to make money from doing what you do, don't you inevitably end up having to do more and more extreme stuff in order to drive those subscribers in order to keep making the six-figure sum every month?
I think everyone in their line of work feels like that. Like, they have to keep doing more, especially people on social media, YouTubers. They feel like they have to keep pushing out more, bigger videos, better videos. And I just think that is the reality of this kind of world. It's consumption, you know?
You get masses of hate comments. You've said you are screamed at in the street. What kind of abuse do you get?
All kinds. I'm disgusting, I'm dirty. I've had like every comment underneath the sun. I mean, I can show you a few of just like a little bit of the hate I've had. So I will start off. The things females will do for money. Disgusting and sad. Whores must be destroyed.
Whores must be destroyed?
Yeah.
Like, does that make you feel unsafe? Or?
Not really. I guess it's just...
My question is this is all for women empowerment. How does this empower women? You know, like, this surely degrades not all women, but, you know, to a degree, and also objectifies women, right? I don't know, I feel like this has got the adverse reaction, and I feel like this whole empowering women narrative that they run with is kind of like a smoke and mirrors. It's like, this is justification for me making a shit ton of money from doing this. And if you are doing that for those reasons, just be honest about it. Like, everyone needs to pay their bills, and if you're making that much money, I would love to be making that much money. If it were me, I'd be like, yeah, this is all for the money. Like, yeah, maybe it degrades women, maybe. But, you know, my pockets are lined, and I've got generational wealth.
Long. Disgusting, ugly, mid-whore. Don't you have a litter box to go clean? You're actually ugly, sorry. So these are just like a little bit of a mix of comments.
Does it bother you?
No, not really. I think everyone's going to have their opinions, especially when you have so many viewers. Like, you're always going to get some kind of negativity.
I think that's an absolute lie. I'm going to stop it there. That's basically where it rounds out. What do you guys think of this? I mean, the response to this has been overwhelming. Like, if you have a look at this, 1,100 likes to 990 dislikes. That is a phenomenal return, right? In the sense that, like, the gap is so close. You never usually see that kind of thing with these kinds of videos. But from 100,000 viewers, like, and from the like to dislike ratio, it's almost 50-50, which is kind of insanity. What do you guys think, ultimately? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Have I been accurate with my, you know, responses, or do you think that I've missed the mark? Honestly, let me know down in the comments. While you're down there, jump to get the hell out of that like button and subscribe, and until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.